The Carolina Panthers are a third of the way done with training camp, and here are a couple of things that we've learned so far. Welcome to Move the Change with JJ. I am your host, JJ. If you don't already, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms at For Panthers Fans Only on TikTok, Instagram, as well as all DSPs where you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And you can also find us on X at FPFO_podcast. This is where we tweet all the live updates from training camp, as well as some video when we have the opportunity to do so. And also, if you don't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn that bell notification on for our channel at the G2S Network so you can see when we post episodes of For Panthers Fans Only. Also, Move the Change with me, etc. Make sure to turn that bell notification on to stay up to date with everything that we have going on at the G2S Network. So getting into it, this will not be a regular episode of episodes of the past that you guys are familiar with. As you can see, my venue is a little bit different. I'm back home for the time being. I will be making a return back to Charlotte Saturday morning for Carolina Panthers training camp day 6. However, I am sitting FanFest out, so it is a little bit different. The time will kind of align just based on when I plan on uploading and launching the video, etc. So today will be a little bit different. Wanted to come in and just update you guys on a couple of things that stood out to me. Obviously, some transactions that have occurred since the last time we recorded, and just touch on a couple of things that I've been seeing floating around X. Couple of people already making some early roster predictions, depth chart alignment, things of that nature. And then I'll also later on give you all who I have as camp MVP offensively, defensively, what position groups have been the most successful, what position groups have left a lot to be desired, and overall just what the Carolina Panthers look like under first-year head coach Dave Canales. As we reported a couple of videos ago, David Davis, you guys remember, he had that big collision. I told you all initially I thought it was a back, then I thought it was a head, and then we were notified by head coach Dave Canales that it was in fact a thigh injury. Whatever that injury specifically was, David Davis was waived by the Carolina Panthers yesterday. In correlation, they signed undrafted free agent Dillon Johnson from the University of Washington. He is a pure power back. I tweeted yesterday, and that tweet, I will say, kind of sparked some conversation for lack of better terms. But I said the signing of Dillon Johnson complicated things for the Carolina Panthers in their running back room. And in my opinion, it does. We know that Rashad Penny retired 2 practices ago before the pads came on, notified the organization, notified Dave Canales, things of that nature, covered his bases on that front. Obviously, with the depth at wide receiver, it was kind of safe to assume that David Davis would be one of those guys that was cut at the end of camp. Unfortunately, his run came a little bit shorter just based off of that injury. And then for the running back room, Rashad Penny retiring was another one of those things where just based on what we had seen from him at practice, it seemed as though he was going to be a guy that was let go by the Carolina Panthers at the end of camp. Again, coming a little bit sooner than a lot of us would have predicted. With the move to bring in Dillon Johnson, for me personally, I think it complicates things significantly for the Carolina Panthers. Like I tweeted out, I believe that Dillon Johnson provides the Carolina Panthers with something that's not in that running back room right now, and that is a pure power back. I believe the last time he was clocked running a 40 time, he ran like a 4.69, so he's not the type of guy that's going to blow the top off of the defense, and that's not something that the Carolina Panthers should expect from him because that's not what he provides. However, he does provide the option for a power back. To me personally, I do not believe that the Carolina Panthers at this very second have a guy that gives you that power back option. Now, a lot of people like running backs that can do it both. A lot of people prefer speed guys. A lot of people prefer just pure power backs. For me personally, I like my running back room to be a bit more diverse. I like guys that provide both, like a Chuba Hubbard, and I also like a speed guy like a Raheem Blackshear. Dillon Johnson, to me, just simply provides you with a power back, so you have the ability to utilize him in short yardage situation. You have the ability in goal line situations, you're 1-2 yards out, he can give you that extra oomph behind the offensive line that the front office constructed so well this offseason to get that additional yard or 2 or 3 and potentially have the ability to put the Carolina Panthers over in certain matchups. The running back room is definitely one that coming into camp I thought was a bit more clear, but just based off of what I've seen performance-wise from Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, guys like Raheem Blackshear as well, who some would deem to be quote-unquote on the bubble, things are a lot more complicated than you may believe. Now, the question ultimately becomes, do the Carolina Panthers feel as though they want to carry 4 or 5 running backs into the season. Now, 5 obviously is a stretch, but I could easily see a situation in which the Carolina Panthers do carry 4 running backs into the season. Now, then at that point, you have to decide, okay, cool. Well, if Raheem Blackshear, who we've seen right now taking reps as kick returner 1, if that's going to be the only thing he does, do we feel as though we can find that spark elsewhere in the kick return game? I think Dillon Johnson complicates things a lot more than people are giving him credit for. I also acknowledge the fact that he is an undrafted free agent. Nobody decided to draft him. He is a slower guy for his position, but going over 1,100 yards on a top 10 nationally ranked team, to me, is something that should land you a spot on an NFL roster. That's just my opinion. You may feel differently, and if you do, I completely get it. But I do think that running back room has become a little more complicated. Another thing that has happened, or happens annually, however, it was more of a vocal point for Carolina Panthers and our fan base, was the NFL Top 100 list. Now, to me, there's absolutely no way that Derrick Brown is not a top 100 player in the NFL. You look at what he did last season. Does he leave a little to be desired when it comes to his sack numbers and all of that stuff within the pass game? Absolutely. But if you look at what he does from a run stuffing standpoint, when you look at what he does at the point of attack, Derrick Brown is, in fact, one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the NFL. And to couple all of those things with the fact that he did record the most tackles ever recorded by a defensive tackle in NFL history last year, I think it's an absolute disgrace that the NFL and its players does not have Derrick Brown in the top 100. Now, I know right now there are 12 players remaining left to be named on the list. However, you'd be hard-pressed to find me 88 guys that play football at a better level, at a higher level, at a more efficient level than Derrick Brown does, and did particularly last season. So I wanted to take the time out of this video to say that just really, really briefly. Again, if you don't already, give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, bell notification, all of that stuff to stay up to date with news regarding the Carolina Panthers and all things NFL. Now to refocus attention back to the Carolina Panthers and where they are right now, 5 practices in to 2024 training camp. I currently have the Carolina Panthers ceiling at 9-8 with a floor of 6-11. Obviously, as you're practicing against yourself, there are a lot of things that remain to be unseen. There are still a lot of questions that remain to be answered with the Carolina Panthers, the depth chart overall, the strength of schedule, all of those type things. But I do believe that we will see a significant jump from the production of this team overall from last year to this year. To me, there's absolutely no way in the world that the Carolina Panthers only win 2 football games. To me, there's absolutely no way in the world that the Carolina Panthers only win 4 football games. Now, a lot of you guys will say that the main objective of this season is to see second-year quarterback Bryce Young increase productivity. Also want to see a jump from some of our younger guys like Jonathan Mingo and things like that. For me personally, those are definitely things that I want to see, but I also want to see this football team become competitive again. It seemed like last season there were a lot of football games that, though they may have been 1-2 score games, the Carolina Panthers, from a heart standpoint, just seemed to be deflated and out of it after 1 quarter of play. That is something that I'm looking forward to the most this season, is that resilience, is that heart, is that attitude that Derrick Brown referenced after training camp practice number 1, when he said that this still wasn't the same old Carolina Panthers. A third of the way in, these are the position groups that I have being the Carolina Panthers' top performing position groups at this very time. Offensively, I have wide receivers. Defense, I have the D-line. Now, just to give some perspective to that, I released my list, like I mentioned, no particular order. ISM, TMJ, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, and Jonathan Mingo. And I even had a situation where the Carolina Panthers get a little freaky with their depth chart and carry 7 receivers, in which case I believe Jalen Coker would be wide receiver number 7. Now, all of these wide receivers provide you with different tools, different packages, different strengths, weaknesses, etc. However, this is a problem that I feel as though the Carolina Panthers did not have last year heading into the 2023 season. The fact that we're able to have a conversation regarding wide receiver depth chart this early on into camp, and the fact that there is a disagreement on who those top 5, 6, 7 guys may be, is a good problem for the Carolina Panthers to have. We know the struggles that this offense suffered through last season. We know the situation that Bryce Young was put in last season with the lack of weapons. Right now, that is not the case for the Carolina Panthers. And that to me is something that I stand fast on, is the fact that the Carolina Panthers wide receiver core will be 10 times better than what we saw last season. Obviously headed by Deontay Johnson. We know what he provides. This camp, he showed nothing less than that. Getting open when Bryce needs him, winning routes relatively quickly. That will definitely play a part in Dave Canales' offense, with him wanting Bryce Young to have that football out of his hands in 2.7 seconds or less. What Adam Thielen has shown us this offseason is the fact that he can still ball. Now, is he older? Absolutely. Is he winning reps as fast? No. But what I will say is every time the ball is thrown in Adam Thielen's direction, more times than not, it's a catch. And then with Jonathan Mingo, I've been extremely vocal about Jonathan Mingo throughout the duration of camp. He's been balling. He has. Those three guys are the three guys that I currently have at wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. And to me, that's a great starting point. That's a great foundation. That's not to mention how ISM has been winning his routes. The length, obviously, that Terrace Marshall Jr. provides in red zone situations. Jalen Coker's phenomenal ability to win routes off the line. So really, the list goes on and on if you ask me about the weapons specifically in the wide receiver room for the Carolina Panthers. And on the other side of the football, the defensive line has been the strong suit for the Carolina Panthers defense as a whole. There is still a couple of pieces that I feel we need to add in the edge rusher room specifically. But off of that, the defensive line, when you look at what they've been able to do in the run game specifically, it's really been impressive. It's really been impressive. Another group that I was kind of hesitant about coming into camp because that was the talk. Obviously, we know we traded pass rusher Brian Burns to the New York Giants this offseason. Then we had a couple of injuries to kick off camp with DJ Wanham and DJ Johnson. And not to go too far off the rails, but we have still yet to see DJ Wanham participate in a full practice. At this rate, with us getting no updates on him from an injury standpoint, I believe DJ Wanham will not be making a return this camp. When you look at the fact that we haven't seen him really at all, I believe there was one day that he showed up to practice. Then you couple that with the fact that he hasn't been working off to the side by himself. That quad injury may be a little more significant than we would have believed. So off of that, the loss of Brian Burns, as well as the injuries that we had earlier on to DJ Johnson, as well as DJ Wanham, I believe was going to hold this unit back. However, that just simply has not been the case. Led by Jadeveon Clowney and Derek Brown, the defensive line has looked phenomenal in the run game. And I will say they have made their fair share of plays in the pass game as well. Though I have the defensive line being the best group so far for the Carolina Panthers defensively, I still do believe that we can use a little bit of help in the edge room, because I think that when you look on the other side of Jadeveon Clowney, there's still a little left to be desired. And then, of course, we don't believe that Jadeveon Clowney at his age will be able to play 50, 60 snaps at a very high level. So I believe that room still can use some improvement. However, defensive line has been very impressive, and I've been happy with what I've seen from the defensive line because my expectations were low. So maybe that plays a part in it. However, I will say they have produced at a very high level, and I've been extremely happy with what I've seen so far. Now the position groups that kind of give us a cause for pause. Every day after practice when I do these videos, I try and do my best to update you guys on the injury report, just based on what I saw, as well as Dave Canales and some of the things that he's touched on from an injury standpoint. Every single day of camp, tight end has come up. That to me is a bit alarming. We talked about Sullivan getting carted off a couple of days ago. Then Tommy Tremble was shut down fully for his hamstring tightness. Then Tommy Tremble was shut down for the remainder of camp with his hamstring tightness. Ian Thomas went back to the locker room the other day. So it seems like every single day, the Carolina Panthers tight end group has had some cause for pause, has had something come up alarming on the injury report. Right now would be the perfect time for rookie Jatavion Sanders to take that step, but a third of the way through camp, I just simply have not seen it. Now, I know the transition is a bit difficult, specifically when you're talking about tight end, but I would love to be seeing more from this guy. Hasn't really made many catches in team, hasn't really impressed in one-on-ones, so I'm looking for a lot more from him in that group specifically, because right now, with what we have at our disposal, the tight end group is a bit alarming, and that is one of the position groups that would help Bryce Young reach another level in his development. So for the duration of camp, I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye on that group specifically, because right now it does not look good. It seems as though this is going to be an issue going into the season. And defensively, I have cornerbacks. Now, a couple of days ago, I came in here and told you guys that Troy Hill was going to be a big part of what we did from a defensive standpoint, but it's not just Troy Hill. If we look at the cornerback room with J.C. Horn, Dane Jackson, and then Troy Hill presumably playing that nickel position, the dime kind of stops there with guys that you're comfortable with rolling out every Sunday afternoon. Now, I know that Boodle as well as Jamison got opportunities last year. However, right now for me, cornerback is still a big problem. It still is a big problem. When you look at a guy like Deshaun Jamison, obviously the first thing that comes into question is his size. And then with Boodle, it's just more of a production thing. Right now, those are the positions that give me cause for pause. The tight end group, as well as the cornerbacks, is something that the Carolina Panthers definitely should look to improve heading into the second third of Panthers training camp. And for my MVP so far of the camp, by far Jadeveon Clowney defensively and Jonathan Mingo offensively. These two guys have really impressed me. I kind of had a feeling of what I was going to get from defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. However, I've gotten that plus more. Been efficient in the run game. He's won the majority of his reps in the passing game. That combination of him and Derek Brown on the same side is definitely going to be something special to watch heading into the season. And then for Jonathan Mingo, I think a lot of Carolina Panthers fans kind of wrote Jonathan Mingo off. I've been vocal in saying that I believe Jonathan Mingo was one of those guys, just like Bryce Young, that kind of got the bad end of the stick with a poor coaching staff, a poor offense that really didn't hone in on his craft, didn't really support him as a wide receiver. And this year, it seems to be a bit different for Jonathan Mingo and his process. In the summertime, heading into the season, Jonathan Mingo has been dominant. Now, again, I will reemphasize the point, like I mentioned earlier, that it kind of gives you cause for pause because there's no real way to know if Jonathan Mingo has taken another step in his preparation or if just the subpar play of the secondary is what's to be credited for the success that Jonathan Mingo has seen early on in camp. However, right now, those are the two guys that I have as my camp MVPs headed into the second part of the Carolina Panthers training camp. Our FanFest is tonight, so if you're going, be safe. I will not make it tonight. However, I will be back in attendance on Saturday. So make sure, again, to turn on that bell notification so you can have exclusive access to every time I release a video discussing the Carolina Panthers and training camp for the remainder of the summer. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will talk again on Saturday. Peace.